Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today. We have some folks that are still dialing in, so we're going to give everyone just a couple of minutes and then we will be back. We are just a couple of minutes past, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you again, everyone, for joining our webinar today. My name is Carol Kennedy. I'm an account manager, primarily supporting ApplicantStack products. On the line with me, we have Brandon Peterson, who's also an account manager, and Ellen Benzine. Our agenda for today, we'll be going through our onboard system and talking about how to create a better onboarding experience for your new hires. We'll talk about why this is important, kind of trends that we're seeing in the industry. It's also important for improved employee engagement, retention, and productivity. And then we'll be sure to talk about how ApplicantStack Onboard can help you in these efforts. And we'll be going into the system just to show you how to actually apply those items. We do have some downloadable content on your ApplicantStack main screen in the announcement section in the upper left. You'll have access to our blogs, which are a great resource for everything recruiting and hiring. And at the end of the presentation today, we'll be sure to open up the floor for questions, and Ellen will be helping me with those today. So we wanted to talk about why onboarding is important. Employees now have more and more options for employment. It could be anything from the gig economy to contract jobs to starting your own company. So lots of options for employees today. And they have more and more availability to share their experience as they are coming on board. So I've seen posts on Facebook and on the web, on Reddit, for example, talking about onboarding experiences or the companies that they work for. A good onboarding experience is good for your retention and satisfaction. A Gallup poll data shows that only 12% of employees felt good about their onboarding experience. Those in that group were 3 times more likely to report that they have the best possible job. And less than 1/3 of new hires surveyed felt supported and prepared to excel in a new role. Just from a personal experience, my first office job, came on board, went through orientation, everything was going great. Got to my work area and did not have a desk set up for me. So just as an example, I had to get creative and create my own desk. I grabbed some boxes out of the file room and made a desk for myself. So not the greatest experience, but lots of new hires coming on board, about 30 to 40 a week. So I'm sure something just fell through the cracks and it all worked out in the end. A good onboarding experience will help your organization grow. And if you have better retention, that's going to lower your organizational costs. A good onboarding experience will help your employee feel more confident. They'll have improved engagement. Engaged employees work harder and are more productive. Only 33% of American employees report being engaged and 16% report being actively disengaged. And your onboarding experience has a direct correlation to their engagement. As far as retention, nearly 70% of employees are more likely to stay if they have had a great onboarding experience with your organization, and this will reduce your cost to bring on new hires. Also, I increase productivity. If you have a successful process, that will help reduce their learning curve, help your hires feel more confident in their new roles. As far as how this all applies to ApplicantStack Onboard, again, we'll be going into the system to review this, but you can use checklists to ensure that no steps are missed in your process. You can use required fields to make sure forms are completed correctly. I do have a bit of background in HR, and it was always very frustrating when somebody forgot to check a box or complete a form correctly, then trying to track them down. Maybe they're in the field to get that information. It was a pretty tedious process. You can use tasks for internal users to remind somebody to set up a workstation, order a badge, do a tour of the office with their new hire. You can upload materials for review, such as a company handbook. We have electronic forms to make everything more efficient for your hires, and everything's tracked in one place for your record keeping. You can use questionnaires to gather information and know a little bit more about your new hires. And maybe you want to add a link to a video and a task for your hire to review some training materials, help them get up to speed just a little bit quicker. We do want to mention we have some upcoming events coming up on March 26th. We do have another webinar, Managing Your Brand in ApplicantStack. And on April 4th, we have another one regarding the Indeed extension. We have an ApplicantStack Recruit webinar on April 16th, which will be an overall overview of our Recruit system. Today we're talking about Onboard. April 16th will be Recruit. And we should have a link in the chat, or you can scan the QR code there to register for those upcoming webinars. We would love to see you on those as well. At the end of the presentation, we will have a hiring survey. So we have a quick survey for you. We would love to get your feedback. We do have a gift card tied to that for your participation. So if you wouldn't mind taking just a couple of minutes, we'd really appreciate that. I believe that will be in the chat as well for you. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead. We'll hop into our onboard system and just walk you through some of those items we just talked about and do an overall overview of that system for you. I do want to start everybody out on a new hire portal, and that will be what your hire will see, and from there we'll work it backwards and show you how we got to that point. So let's go ahead and hop over to our hires. I'm going to come into John Nicholas's profile, and we'll go ahead and click on View Portal to see what John will see. John will get an email with a link to the portal, a username, and a password. And that is how he will go ahead and log in. As we can see, we have some contact information for John that can be edited if anything has changed. Maybe John moved for the job, needs to update the address. We can see John's manager, and that will be a way to put a face with a name if you want to upload a picture. We have some general information review, and we have a supporting documents section. So we mentioned that you'd be able to upload information for your hire to review. Typically, everyone will have a handbook. You can go ahead and upload that to everyone's portal for them to read through. And coming down, we do have electronic forms and a couple of tasks assigned to John. The electronic forms, again, will be kept in the system for you. They're going to create a little bit of efficiency for your hire, and that they will pre-populate with information that we already have. So if I scroll down on this I-9 form, we can see information pre-populates if we already have that information. That's going to save hopefully some errors on your hire's behalf and some time as they are completing their new hire forms. They'll go ahead and complete their section. We do have a way to set it up so that you'll be triggered to come in and complete the employer section once that is done. We're agreeing that this is us, this is our signature as we typed it in, and we can submit, or maybe we need to save and finish later. We need to come back after we look up our documentation. We mentioned getting to know your new hires a little bit better. So I have an example questionnaire. It doesn't need to be an official form and with an official signature on that. We're just collecting emergency contact name, phone number, who can we contact in the event of an emergency. Maybe you want to prompt for what is your uniform, t-shirt size, something of that sort. Do you have any food preferences? So if we have a company lunch, do you have any allergies, something of that nature. You can create those and have your employee complete that as they're coming on board. Okay, so as the hire progresses through, we can see items that have been completed and items that are still outstanding. They will say start task. Your hire can click on them and come in and complete those electronically. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and head back into our system. I want to start you out on the library so we can talk about how to set up the system to really work for you. We've got a few items here. We have forms. You can import standard forms, so the I-9, the state tax forms, things of that nature are already created and available for you to use. You'll simply need to import those. You can go ahead and add a custom form. You'll be prompted for a PDF. And once that's been uploaded, let me take you into a view so you can see what that would typically look like. You can instruct your hire how to complete that. We have a few different form types. So hire only would be the hire is completing something. Employer only is employer. Hire then employer would be, for example, that I-9. The hire completes their section and then the employer comes in and completes the following section. And employer then hire. You can have an email reminder sent until your hire completes that, just as a little reminder. Coming down, fields will be highlighted in blue that need to be completed. For the most part, those should pull into the appropriate part of the form. If you need to add one for some reason, if it's missing, you'll simply, on clicking and dragging, to bring those over to the appropriate section of the form. If you need a date, you can drag over a date box. You can resize them if you need to. And one thing I want to mention, you can double click on that field and we have a couple of options. So if you want to make a field required, I had this question yesterday. We're missing a signature on some of our forms. You can come in and make that required so the hire has to complete that. Okay, we do have some options. Let's say it's a social security number. We can do some validation around that as well. So again, you'll just need to double click on that field to set that up. Coming back to the library, let's move forward to questionnaires. So we talked about setting up gathering of information via questionnaires. So I'll just click on new questionnaire. We can add a question. Is that yes, no, multiple choice, and so forth. So you can go ahead and prompt for information just to gather a little bit more information from your hire as they're coming on board. Coming down to messages, we mentioned that there would be a welcome email that would go out to your hire. You can certainly customize this. We have merge codes to populate that information, so you're not having to type in the hire's name. You can have that as a merge code. And feel free to customize this message to your needs. Okay, let's go ahead and create a template. If you're using texting, you can use that in our onboard system as well, but you'll simply designate which one it is and set up your message in the library if you'll be using it time and time again. Coming down to tasks, these could be tasks for your internal users. It could be a task for your hire. Lots of different scenarios, so let's go ahead and create a task and talk about that. We have a few different types. We have a file type, which would allow you to have up to 10 files for hires to review or download. We have a general type task, so maybe we want to assign to our facilities individual, please order a badge or set up a desk for this individual so they'll come on board ready to go. We have a questionnaire type, so to the hire we want to assign that emergency contact questionnaire, or let's get your uniform size. Again, you can have a reminder go out every so often just to have the hire complete that information. Okay, so if you wanted to send maybe a link to a video for some training, you could create a task. You could go ahead and put a link to a publicly hosted video in there, and that will go ahead and allow your hires to view that. Once you have your forms and your tasks created, you'll go ahead and create checklists. So Going back to my example, first office job, we had about 8 or 12 new hire packages, just depending on different scenarios. So people worked in different states. Some were driving on company time, some weren't. Some needed fingerprinting, some didn't. So lots of different scenarios and situations, full-time, part-time. So you can go ahead and create as many checklists as you need. So you can think of that as quote unquote a new hire package. You can give that a name. So North Carolina full-time, North Carolina part-time, driving, not driving, whatever the situation is. And then you'll go ahead and drag over your task. So everyone needs an employee file. We need emergency contact information, set up a workstation, and then any forms that are affiliated. So everyone needs the federal W-4, everyone needs the I-9, the handbook acknowledgement. North Carolina, we need the North Carolina tax form. And we will be sure to show you how to assign that to the hire, but that's going to ensure that no steps are missed as they are going through the hire process. You're not having to remember to check things off one by one, what's relevant to the situation. Simply assign that checklist. All of those items will be assigned at once. And our supporting documents. There is a way to add, if it's one-off particular to that hire, you can assign it individually, or you can add a document here, and that will be available for every hire to review. Now that we have the system set up, let's go ahead and talk about how to use it. I'm going to get everyone over to our home page so you can see we have that announcement section that I had mentioned. We've got our upcoming webinars listed here. We have any tasks that are incomplete that have been assigned to you. So I know what I need to do. So I need to come in and order a uniform for that particular hire. I need to complete the W-4 for these hires here. I can see how many hires are in each stage of my process. These are customizable, so you're not limited to these, but where they are in the process, just to give you an overall snapshot. Coming over to hires, we're going to stick with John Nicholas, since we've been using him as our example. I'm going to click into his profile. We can see his contact information. We have an attachment section, so via add attachment, maybe you want to upload a photo for a badge, something of that nature. We have the hire tasks, user tasks, completed forms, and questionnaires. Anything with this red color is not complete. Anything in this bluish green color is complete. We have a yellow pending status. So let's say it's a two-part form, part one has been completed. That would be in a pending stage. If we come down to completed forms, we can view all forms if we want to print, for example, a new hire package, or we can view each form individually. And we can see how the hire completed that form. Everything, if it requires a signature, will be turned to script, and there will be a date of completion for that. If you want, you can go ahead and download those forms. You can print them. Depending on what browser you're using, that might look a little different. But you can go ahead and get that information out as well. We mentioned having a one-off supporting document. Here's where you can assign. Maybe it's specific to John. You can assign that here. We have some history between you and John, any emails that have been sent. You can take notes, and we have a history as well. So any items that have happened, that will be saved for you. Coming back to the hires table, now that we have some information completed, we can see a tasks column. So how many total tasks have been created and how many of those have been completed. So George has completed 3 out of 4, he's 75% complete. Okay, if there is a cell phone number tied to that hire, we can send a text message and we can view various fields here. We've either mentioned or will mention in a future webinar how to customize those and create those. We can see what stage the hire is in and who the hire's manager is. Coming over to the items on the right, let's say hire comes on board last minute, they did not come from your recruit applicant tracking system, and they weren't fed over. From there, we can add a hire manually. We can search our hires, we can email them, text them, We can add a task individually to a hire. Okay, so you'll simply choose that task and assign it. In a similar fashion, we can go ahead and add that checklist, and that will go ahead and assign all the items tied to that checklist so nothing is missed. We have an option for you to add a quick note. You can print information. You can set values in this table. So maybe we want to track when their driver's license expires, we can set that value and track that information. Okay, that is an overview of how to work with your hires once they are in the system. Let's go over to our tasks tab, since that will be pretty important. I'll go ahead and open all of those filters up so we can see a little bit more information. This will give you an overall snapshot of everything that's outstanding in the system, what's not complete, and what has been completed. So you can come in, maybe you know John is starting in a couple of days, we need to go ahead and get things wrapped up. We can go ahead and follow up accordingly on that. Okay, reports, any field that you have in the system, anything from a new hire form, you can create a report to reflect that information. So maybe we know that somebody has an allergy that they indicated in that questionnaire. You can go ahead and come in here. We've got a team lunch coming up. Who's going to be involved in that? What do we have to worry about? You can pull a report. Maybe you want to see hires from a certain date range. It's pretty flexible. If you need any help setting up a report, you can do that simply via create report. It's going to prompt you for what you want to pull in. Our technical support team is always happy to help as well if you need help pulling that. A couple more things to mention before we turn the floor over to questions. Under our setup, the system is very flexible. As we mentioned, we can create hire fields to track on that hire table. Maybe we want to track social security number, hire date, driver's license information. We can do that. We can create the stages that our hire will go through. So maybe orientation, tour of office, something of that sort. And then we have the hire workflow, which is going to allow you to automate stages and things that happen at those stage changes. So maybe emails go out, maybe checklists are assigned. I believe that is slated for a future webinar, so keep your eyes open for that. We won't go into too much detail there today. And the very last item to mention, under your settings, you can change your portal instructions just to customize those, customize those just a little bit. Give your hire sort of a warm and fuzzy. We're excited to have you on board. You can customize that, and you can upload a logo as well, just to personalize your new hire portal just a little bit. That is our onboard system, kind of from start to finish. So we'd like to open up the floor for questions at this time. Those questions can be anything ApplicantStack, Recruit, or Onboard. They don't have to be related to today's topic. So if you go ahead and submit those via the questions panel and that GoToWebinar part of your screen, we will do our best to answer those today.
All right, Carol, I am going to jump in. This is Ellen. And one thing I want to mention is the onboarding experience that you were discussing. We actually use our own onboarding product when new hires start with Swipe Clock. And I can remember going through the process, and I get this link and I'm thinking, okay, I'll just click on it. I knew it was coming. But that onboarding process, I just want to mention, is very intuitive. And again, wanted to mention we use our own software for our new hires. Just a little bit of a plug here. Yeah. So we do have a couple questions. As Carolyn mentioned, go ahead and input your questions. They can be on anything ApplicantStack, Recruit, and onboarding. The first question, Carol, is from Lisa. I manage the onboarding process, but I am not the employee's manager. Is there a way to make me the onboarding manager, but show their actual manager on the portal? their actual manager doesn't want to be emailed every time they finish a task. So Carol, I actually saw this question come in and quickly slacked Dan Hicks,
Oh,
who is one of our, the best technical support rep. Well, they're all good. But anyway, his response to this, and I just wanted confirmation as to what I thought the answer was, is that you cannot do that. And you can turn off, however, what you can do is you can turn off the onboarding notifications for the manager. So I'm kind of boggling this a little bit, but do you mind, Carol, please going to a user profile and onboarding?
sure thing.
So just to reiterate what I'm saying, Lisa, is the hiring manager's picture does need to be on their portal, does need to be on the new hire portal, but you can turn off notifications for the for the hiring manager for completed tasks in their user settings. So let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit further. Carol is going to go to manage users, and if she clicks on her own user profile and scrolls down, you can see there that, Carol, will you click out of that for a minute and go to the next? No, you were there. Forms, where it says back up, please, if you don't mind. Forms, questionnaires, notifications. And you can see that Carol's is not checked. So Lisa, you want to uncheck that for the hiring manager in question. And then your hiring manager will not get any of those notifications that any of his or her hires have completed forms or questionnaires.
Right, and the workflow has a little bit more that you can do with that as well.
All right, so I hope that answered that question. The next questions are related. We do not have a checklist option in our library, and I do not have the hires option in our ApplicantStack. We have home, jobs, candidates, emails, tasks, events, and library reports. Oh, this user actually left. But to answer that question is they probably don't have onboarding in their account. What she's describing, is their recruit homepage. So if there's not a checklist option in your library, it means you only have recruit. But onboarding, you'd have onboarding if you've got what I call the 3x3 waffle in the upper right-hand corner of your ApplicantStack screen that allows you to transition from recruit to onboard and vice versa. All right, next question. Hi, could you please show us what the process would look like from start to finish once someone accepts an offer and they become a new hire? For example, in what order are tasks and checklists added?
Okay, let's go ahead and hop back over to our recruit system and mention just a couple of things here. So I'm going to come over to my candidates, and once I change a candidate from job offer to, let's say, hired, and submit that, it's going to prompt me to choose a workflow that the hire is going to go through, and then choose the onboarding manager. So once I confirm those stage changes, it's going to send that individual over to the onboard side, and it's going to pre-populate certain information. So we know John Nicholas's email address, we know where he lives, and so forth. So certain information is going to come over, and then from there, it's really up to you how you want to manage that process. So we can come in, we can add a checklist and assign those items. I imagine some companies do that before they start. They want them to complete the forms maybe a day or two early. Maybe on day one, you trigger that checklist or add a task or trigger that welcome email to them. It's really up to you how you want to manage that situation moving forward. So everyone's going to be a little bit different, but hopefully that helps. If you'd be interested in automating that via your workflow, You can do that as well. Trigger information automatically at stage changes. So hopefully that helps.
Yep. And just to clarify, you can include a task in a checklist. So there was the question included in what order are tasks and checklists added. So if you are using the checklist function, which I would highly suggest, you can include tasks in a checklist. So tasks and forms can be added when a checklist is added to a new hire record. All right, next question. How do we access the downloadable content from today?
Okay, I believe that refers to maybe that blog article. There should be a recording as well that will be emailed out after the fact, but I'm assuming you're talking about the content, the blogs, and the recording from today's webinar.
Yep.
Go back to our homepage and let's mention, should be here. We've got the upcoming webinars. We've got some resources for you. And here is our blog, so you can access that as well.
All right, great. Thanks, Carol. Next question. At what point does an applicant new hire get access to the portal? Is there an email sent out with that information?
There sure is. Let's go to our library. Let's go to messages, and there is welcome to the hiring process. So feel free to tweak this to your needs. That will send out a link to the portal. They will have the username and the password. I believe they'll be prompted to change that password. But you can send that out whenever you would like. So let's come back to our hires. We can email our hire directly from here. We can go ahead and choose that template. Or in our workflow, let's go to our hire workflow. Let's go into that, the default. Maybe at paperwork in progress, we want to assign that email to go out. We can edit that workflow stage and we can trigger that at that stage change. So when you change them to that stage, that email will automatically go out. So a couple of different ways to do the same thing. And once they have that, they'll have access to the portal. They should see that until you put them into an inactive stage. Let's say the employee leaves the company. Once they're inactive, they should lose access to the portal.
Excellent. All right. Next question, Carol, is I'm very new to my position and we are currently only using 5 onboarding forms in ApplicantStack. I want to add more forms. What's the easiest way to find state forms? Someone interrupted my training at the beginning, so I'm unsure if I missed this. No problem. Carol can review it.
Certainly understand interruptions happen throughout the day. So let's go back to our library. Let's go to import form and let's go ahead and find, since we're talking about, well, we want to add more state forms. Let's talk about state tax forms. So you'll simply come in and check the ones that you need and you will import those. And to your credit, I'm not sure I went into that level of detail, but you'll simply select the ones you need and you'll simply import those. We can go ahead and federal tax forms, maybe we want the W-4, the W-9, same with miscellaneous forms, we have some available for you, a direct deposit authorization. You can simply go through and select the forms that you need and import those.
Excellent. And I wonder, Carol, if the question may also include uploading forms unique to the organization.
Sure, it could. So you would simply come to library and add form. You'll see you'll be prompted for a PDF. And then you'll simply come in, you will see a view similar to this, where forms that, or excuse me, fields that need to be completed will be highlighted in blue. And you can simply add any that are missing. So a signature, a date, you'll simply click and drag those over onto the form. So any custom forms that you have can be added as well.
Excellent. Thanks. Next question is, how do the I-9 and E-verification after employee submit them on onboarding? So I'm reading this out loud, but having a little bit of trouble interpreting it. Can you please input that question again, and we'll scroll down and answer it in a minute.
Sure.
Let me try this again, Carol. The I-9, the new hire would complete and submit as part of their onboarding process. And then once it is completed and submitted, you would see it in this new hire record where Carol is now. It would be under completed forms, as Carol is showing you. And it would say completed, just as she's showing you there. So I'm not sure if I answered your question. If we didn't, can you please resubmit? We got a thank you, Carol, from Lisa, and
Okay.
she was the one who was asking about onboarding manager versus an individual who actually oversees their onboarding. So that was turning off those notifications for completed forms and questionnaires.
Fantastic.
Okay. Yes. Next question is, I have an applicant who answered an answer incorrectly on the application. Based on her answer, she received a KO rating. Is there a way to remove the KO? So we're back in Recruit.
Gosh, I'm going to pull that up and show everyone what we're talking about. So for example, we have a KO score that has been set up. So when this particular candidate answers that question, it knocks them out of consideration, KO being knockout, and you'll see that alert. So the only way, I'm not even sure if this is possible, but if you edited the candidate record and perhaps changed that answer to a yes, let's say it was a mistake. I don't know legality of that. I don't know if I would recommend it. I don't know if it would work, but that's the only thing I can think of how you might change that and remove that KO. Our support team may be best to answer that. If you want to submit a ticket, the orange question mark in the upper right, you can go ahead and ask a question. Our team may be able to answer that a little bit better. But again, I might check before doing anything, check with your HR team. Is that allowable? Do you have a paper trail of that you changed it on their behalf? I'm not sure how I feel about doing that, but if it were possible, that would be the only way I could think of doing that. But again, our support team might know more.
And certainly a note could be added in the candidate record as well. But yes, I would suggest asking our support team that as well. All right, next question is, what is the difference in using a checklist versus a task?
Okay, let's hop on back over. So a task is one individual item. Set up a workstation, order a laptop, create a badge. So that's just one single item. And then a checklist encompasses many items. So what needs to happen with that particular kind of hire? So here are our tasks. We need to order a uniform, add an employee file. So you can have multiple tasks within that checklist, as well as forms. So what forms does that hire need to complete? So hopefully that helps break it down. Again, a task is one individual item. A checklist is composed of tasks and forms.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Oh, you got another thank you from Eliza. Excellent. Here's the next question. What forms are already generated into the system from ApplicantStack? And then state, tax, I-9, question mark.
Yep, sure thing. That question may have come in before we cover this in more detail, but library to import form, typically your standard, quote unquote, standard forms. I-9 state tax forms, federal tax forms. We have some just generic. We've got a handbook acknowledgement, a direct deposit authorization. your federal tax forms. We've got a WOTC in here, so your quote-unquote standard forms are available already without having to be built into the system. So feel free to explore those a little bit more, see what might be useful to you.
And our product development team does keep tabs on any forms that expire and any new forms. So what was it? When was it, Carol? The I-9 expired in August, but then there was a month of grace period and the new I-9 had to be implemented by, I don't know, October or something. But it was the same with the CC305. The old CC305 expired mid-year. But we do keep tabs on those federal and state forms and typically create those forms for you, and they're ready for use at that time. All right. Is there any way to have a new applicant complete an application without having to fully delete the profile? Sounds like a rehire situation. I'm going to read it again. Is there any way to have a new applicant complete an application without having to fully delete the profile?
I need a little bit more information there. It's a new applicant, so they shouldn't have a profile to be deleted.
Right.
Maybe we're having them complete a new application.
I'm wondering if it's a new application or a new questionnaire. And if we are talking about Recruit, you can certainly email that individual the questionnaire from their candidate record.
Sure, we can create an email to the candidate. We can go ahead and have a message template, or we can type into the box. We can go ahead and give it a subject, please complete a new application. We can attach a questionnaire for them to complete via that email. Hopefully that answers that question.
I'm just kind of rereading it. I think so, Carol. Thank you.
Okay.
Next question. How do you get rid of forms not being used anymore? So I think you're back in onboarding and we're talking about archiving forms.
Yeah, so under our form templates, you can simply select the one you're no longer using and you can archive that form. I wouldn't recommend deleting it. I would go ahead and archive it.
Right. And actually, Carol, I'm not sure you can delete it if it's been filled out.
Yeah, that typically would warn you this has been completed by somebody before, and by deleting it, you may delete those answers from before. So I typically don't recommend using that trash can. So I would say go ahead and archive that.
Excellent. All right. After the employee fills out the I-9, we have to verify with 2 forms of ID.
Okay, and then there's a follow-up question to that. Can you do the internet like you were going to have it verified? I don't have a way to easily demonstrate that today without it getting pretty clunky. But let's go ahead and go into John Nicholas's profile. Let's go ahead and view his portal. Let's start that I-9 task. And then let's come down. We will have the employer complete everything here. They'll sign and date that. You could either have them come into the office. You can view the documents in person. Again, check with your HR or your legal team on the best way to do this. Maybe they email you a copy that's been, they take a photo of it, they scan it. You can verify it that way. And then once the hire completes their section, you can come in and complete this section here with that documentation. I know there's certain laws about keeping things separate from employee files, and I would check with your HR team on the best way to handle that. But we do have a two-part form where the hire can complete their section, and then you would come in and complete the employer section.
You can also request that your hires upload information via the onboarding process. And again, do check with your legal department or whoever you consult with regarding practices. But new hire can upload a picture of their social security card, passport, license, anything that you request during the onboarding process as well. And that's done via a questionnaire. All right, Carol. And if you've got further questions on that, we can certainly take them offline as well. Okay, next question, Carol. To give context, when applicants apply via Indeed or any job board, this is an add-on to a previous question, ApplicantStack only shows their resume, but not the full application. So I find myself deleting the profile with only their resume and sending them a new link to complete the full application. Okay, I actually think we might have already answered that in the prior discussion. And you're absolutely right. If you've got Indeed apply on and candidates apply for your jobs from Indeed, you typically do not want a long questionnaire like an employment questionnaire associated to that process. So Carol, my instinct on this would be, yes, have them apply, a candidate record would be completed, evaluate the candidate, see if you want to move forward with them, and at that time you can email your full employment application.
Yes, absolutely. So I know back when I used the system as a recruiter, a little bit different scenario, but we would have everybody apply, keep it as short as possible. Then only the candidates that we were truly interested in, we would email that full-blown application. So similar situation, you don't have to start over. You could pull up that profile, send them an email, and then that questionnaire will attach once it's been completed. Yep, exactly.
And you can even trigger that employment questionnaire to stage change as well. So if you're moving that individual to phone screen or to interview, that employment application can be triggered. All right, there is a thank you. Next question is how to add references in the employee's application.
Okay, this may be a question for our support team, specific to your example, but in the library, we have our standard application for employment, which should include, get to the right section, application should include a references section. If that has been removed for some reason, or if you have a custom employment application, I would go ahead and submit a ticket, and our support team can help add that to your application, employment application. Not sure exactly what your scenario is, or you may need to set up a separate questionnaire to prompt for that information if you don't have an employment application. So lots of different ways to handle that. If you're looking to automate that, that is a multi-step process. So if that's something you're looking to automate, let us know. But for now, I think how to add that should probably already be included, but if it's not, just let our support team know and they can help you with that.
All right, great. And next question. Okay, we're getting thank you from Erica. Erica's question was how to get the employment application to an individual if their profile has already been created via Indeed Apply. Great, Erica, I'm glad we answered that. Next question, Carol. Is there a way to merge duplicate candidates in the recruit module? At times we have 3+ of the same applicants, all with separate notes, but it's the same person. So okay. I think we're talking global notes here, Carol.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you. We do have, the system does not have the capability to quote unquote merge profiles, but let me click through to try to find an example here for you. I don't know one off the top of my head, but there will be a red alert if there is a duplicate profile. Here we go. 5 duplicates. So it's just a test candidate, but you can hover over that. It will show you where else that candidate has applied, but unfortunately it can't combine those profiles. And to Ellen's point, we can go ahead and add a note. We can make that global, so it will show across applications for that candidate. And maybe you want, I've seen where the candidate's applying for every job that's out there. Maybe we just want to put a global note, you know, candidate chronically applies for everything, not interested. Make that global, and you can see that across those applications.
Perfect.
And then
Okay.
history. Oh, sorry, the candidate history, you would be able to see that.
Perfect. Great. Okay, we're getting quite a few thank yous, Carol.
Okay.
We love thank yous. Next question. Are there any resources available that outline specific click paths? For example, the steps needed to assign a checklist. So I think we're talking about the Help Center now, Carol.
Yeah, I want to say, let's go to our Help Center. We've got a number of knowledge-based articles out here. So I believe there should be a getting started. For Onboard, we have a guide and we have a video. So let's go to the guide for now. And this should walk you through. We might also have an article if you want to assign or search for checklist. That may be there as well. But we have a getting started guide. It's under, what do you think, Ellen? Hires tab?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. So feel free to come in here and search for that answer. This is going to walk you through kind of from start to finish how to work with and set up the onboard system. So that specific example I'm sure is in here somewhere, but this is going to walk you through kind of everything that you need.
And Carol, will you do me one favor and just go to a hire record, please? And highlight where the add checklist function is from the gray menu on the right, please.
Okay, let's go back to Onboard. Let's go back to our hires and let's go to George Blake and we can add a checklist. So you'll have to have the checklist set up and created, but once that's done, you can go ahead and add that. And this will show you what exactly that's going to add.
Mm-hmm. And so as Carol is showing, you can manually add a checklist or assign a checklist to a new hire. You can also trigger a checklist at a stage change. So lots of things that we discuss can be both manually done and automated for efficiency. It's just a matter of how you want to set up your onboarding, but do know it's flexible to mirror your particular onboarding processes. All right.
Yeah, the workflow. Oh, sorry, Ellen. We'll add a little bit extra work because for each, this would be a universal setting. So you may need to look at having different workflows to assign different checklists. It will cost you on that.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe at a checklist, you can choose which checklist, or excuse me, at a stage change, you can choose which checklist to assign as well, if you've got multiple ones in that stage. All right. That appears to be all the questions, Carol.
Okay.
I'm staring at my screen like another question's going to pop up, but I don't see anything.
Okay.
I think it's time to wrap up.
Yeah, I believe so. So once again, just as a quick reminder, there should be a survey coming up. It should just take a couple of minutes. We would love to have your feedback. And there will be that little gift card tied to that. So thank you again, everyone, for your time today. We hope to see you in the future.
Thanks, Carol.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.